Hello. I hope this works fine. Okay, so my name is Manza Perko. I am a lecturer in film production and cinematography at Wiltshire College, and I will be talking to you about representations on screen and behind it today. So I prepared a PowerPoint. I am a bit new to this, so please be patient. So when we talk about representations, what exactly do we mean by that? The key understanding is that while film is art, and as any art, it should be seen subjectively, film is also a representative media. And representation is how media texts deal with and present gender, age, ethnicity, national and regional identity, social issues, and events to an audience. Media texts have the power to shape an audience's knowledge and understanding about these important topics. This makes them very powerful in terms of influencing ideas and attitudes. Therefore, we need to be conscious of what representations we offer to our audience. We have a responsibility towards the society. In order to determine how films represent ideas and issues, it's important to be familiar with some of the key terms. The construction of a representation. In a film or television program, this includes the editing and choice of camera angles, for example. Mediation. This can be how a film script is written and rewritten before it makes it to the production. Selection. Certain factors are selected over others, and this can change the angle of the story. What is omitted is sometimes as important as what is included. Anchorage. These are the words that go along with images to give those pictures a certain meaning and a specific context. This includes caption and headlines on film posters, for example. Stereotypes. Stereotypes are simplified representations of a person, group of people, or a place through a basic or obvious characteristics, which are often exaggerated. They can be used to describe characters quickly, relying on existing audiences' recognition. Stereotypes are dangerous, as they can lead the audience to generalize about people or places. Ideology. These are ideas and beliefs held by media producers. By this I mean the text authors, which are often represented in their media text, so their products. In a documentary, for example, about asylum seekers, the representation of their story can be influenced by the ideology of the filmmaker or the producer. I will now go into some of the most commonly observed stereotypes and ideology that we can find on screen. First would be whitewashing, racial stereotypes. Black and Asian people have been repeated targets when it comes to on-screen representation. In recent years, there has been an increased attention on racism and sexism in Hollywood films, which can be reflected in who acts in front of the camera, who directs behind it, and how people are represented on screen. And often it's all three combined. Even today, most images of Asians and Asian Americans on screen weren't created by Asians or Asian Americans, but by people who don't know much about them, says Ken Dono, who studied media representation of race at the University of Utah in America. This creates a very strange idea of who Asians and Asian Americans are for those who don't know any Asian people. And it also creates a very confused and strange relationship by Asians and Asian Americans to Hollywood, because they can't fully identify with this bizarre representation of themselves. So a few Asian stereotypes. Yellow face, we might remember this one from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Kung Fu Ninja Warriors, or geisha, seductive, lady, tourists, that is also very often you see in films, representation of Asians as tourists with a lot of phones. According to Hollywood Diversity Report from the University of California in Los Angeles, the share of female and non-white characters on screen has risen quite steadily over the past years, but also quite slowly. Even through Asians, for example, make up more than half of the world's population and just under 6% of the US population. Only 3% of the roles in 2017 and 2018 were played by actual Asian people. Black characters made up 12% of all roles, which approaches proportionate representation for the US population. But in many cases, the portrayals are quite problematic. This was raised very highly with 2017 film Ghost in the Shell, where we had an American actress playing what is an Asian character, main character. And the discussion was as to why they did not just cast an Asian actress. Stereotyping can be observed in representation of Black characters as well. Spike Lee actually coined the magical Negro, referring to the main character's friend helping this white protagonist reach their goals. An excellent example, Robin Hood. The same goes for nationalities and different ethnicities. Germans, for example, are represented as tough, usually referring back to Nazism, Second World War. Russians are aggressive, hard, very often not educated people. So stereotyping is very strong when it comes to, I have a short video that I will show. It is a comedy, but it is an excellent representation. Okay. I guess I will not show you, sorry, it does not work. So the example I was talking about was Borat. He talks about gypsies, he talks about Jews, he makes fun of Jews. So we are faced with many very typical stereotypes. Another part of representation is the gender discrimination that we are facing. Gina Davis, the actress, said in this year, the bigger picture is that gender discrimination and harmful stereotypes still dominate on screen. This undermines girls and young women and has a negative impact on their aspirations to leadership and all walks of life. The media continue to have huge influence on how the world views women and girls and how they view themselves, she said. But few current roles show women in powerful positions and continue to reinforce damaging gender stereotypes. Davis said that she remained optimistic that things would improve. The Me Too, Time's Up movements have had a remarkable impact on the industry. We can feel that the change is in the air, she said. I feel the easiest way to bring change is in our culture is on-screen representations. And if you make it happen there, it will happen in real life as well. I have some examples of very strong female leads. Killing Eve T-series with the main detective being a woman. Watchmen as well, quite very action impactful. There's a lot of films, of course, as well. Ocean's 8, for example. So these are really good examples. Still few, but we are on the way. Representations in the LGBTQ movement. Well, throughout film history, the LGBTQ representations had to be coded, even if the original source material is perfectly clear about an LGBTQ character. I put some examples of films that are very, I've left out, of course, The Brokeback Mountain, very popular. These are some, so Moonlight, the newer films. There's also one really interesting film that I hopefully the link will work now. Just a second. Let's see. Oh, yes, it will.
Why do we always come here? Coffee is
For the cozy atmosphere.
You know where they make good coffee?
In Naples. You drank a coffee there on May 31st, 1984 during the Shane's Bad Friends tour. Bad Friends is Shane Michello's 6th album.
If this crisis drags on, you can write my official biography.
It's an always show.
Hello.
Oh. I'm Cheyenne.
I know. I, on the other hand, would be Desmond.
This would be Desmond.
Mary.
Excuse me if I'm being too direct, Mary, but I was wondering if it's okay with your father here. Maybe we could go out sometime.
He's not my father.
Oh.
What sort of music do you listen to?
Mariah Carey.
Thank you for your invitation, Desmond, but I'm afraid I'm busy for the next 14 years.
You humiliated him.
Okay, so this was a short clip. This is from a film, This Must Be the Place, Sorrentino's film, an amazing film. So it is about a character that is, well, struggling with mental health issues a bit, but also this sort of transient or not completely decided. So it complicates the concept of sexuality really, really nicely. And it is a really good film. I really encourage you to watch it. So speaking about the mental health, we have films appearing that also deal with mental health representations. There is more talk of depression. There are films about depression. There are films about the inner struggles. And also autism, for example, the TV series The Good Doctor. Our main character is an autistic boy. So I think we are getting closer to revealing, putting these things out there for the public audience. The predominant issue with the interpretation of meaning lies in the complexity of the process, which Umberto Eco depicts as a sophisticated strategy of interplay between the readers of the text and their competence in language as a social treasury. The interaction between the interpreting subject and the process that they employ generates the understanding of meaning and the intention of the creative product. So to clarify Umberto Eco's theory, cultural conventions can be seen as an array of signs that the audience uses in deciphering the meaning that is encoded in the cinematic language, something the directors manipulate with in their filmmaking. In order to exploit the language to encode the meaning, the director has to exhibit fluency in it. Now, from the perspective of free will, any opinion regarding art is valid, but from the perspective of truth, there will be opinions that are more true than others, and the greater truth of the utmost understanding and knowledge cannot be denied by a lesser truth of ignorance or ideological bias. Now, what I mean by that is we need to educate ourselves. We need to talk about representations on the screen, but also behind the screen. So inclusivity, what is inclusivity? Inclusivity is the practice of policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those having physical or mental disabilities or belonging to other minority groups. Poor representation reflects in a number of disabled film workers in film production, in a number of women working in the industry, especially in the traditional male jobs, and the occurrence of ageism, which is discrimination due to one's age. In film production, this often refers to people who are of high age and have possibly been out of the business for a while and are therefore less familiar with the newer processes and newer technology. The biggest reason behind this is that the employers employ people like themselves. There is a lot of patronage, still prevailing nepotism, and fear of disability and cultural diversity. The other side is that there are skill shortages and the fact that there are nuances and complex structures in the representation categories themselves. For example, there is certain diversity within the disability itself. So what can we do about it? The best way forward is to educate our new upcoming generations of filmmakers and practice what we preach. Let's learn to recognize our unconscious biases. For example, realize that language is a very powerful tool. Mentor our newcomers, offer regional opportunities, reach broader audience, promote disability culture, social inclusion, and encourage innovation. We at Wiltshire College and University Center support our students in their creative endeavors. We paid great attention to diversity and inclusivity and encourage our students to do the same. So come join us in making films in a diverse, creative environment where everyone can shine. Thank you.